Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers, and we're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today we welcome in a guy that can talk about a wide variety of subjects, and all of them are pertinent to people that live in Oklahoma.
Indeed. We're going to be talking with the state treasurer coming up, recently elected.
Yeah. Randy McDaniel is our guest today on The Verdict, recently elected and in charge of a lot of money.
Well, an awful lot of money, more than I can even hardly imagine. We're going to talk to him about the plans he has for operating his office and what kind of challenges he is expecting and what he wants to do about them.
It's all coming up today on The Verdict. Randy McDaniel, today's guest.
Alabama remembers us. The Chickasaws lived and hunted here for thousands of years. We governed here, built fine homes, farms, businesses, even joined forces with U.S. soldiers until we were forced west to Indian Territory to start again. In huge murals in Tuscaloosa that depict our history and removal, Alabama remembers us. Through historic sites and stories about Chickasaws along the Natchez Trace, all echo a time when Northwest Alabama was our sweet home. Today, many of us return to touch the earth and trees we once knew so well, and meet Alabamans who lost so much of their own past. When the Chickasaws were removed in the America we share today.
Good morning and welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to welcome to the set of The Verdict the Honorable Randy McDaniel, the treasurer of the state of Oklahoma, recently elected at this last general election. Randy did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, did his master's work at Cambridge University. He has been in excess of 20 years involved in financial planning and financial matters as a profession. In the meantime, he decided to help out his state and ran for the House of Representatives and served 6 terms in the House of Representatives. At the very end, he was chairman of the House Financial Committee and involved in financial matters at every level. He is a retired captain in the Oklahoma National Guard. Randy, this is your first visit, I know, but we hope you'll come back and see us again. Congratulations on your election.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you for that very generous introduction. I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, so, a year ago, boy, were things, a mess, and you were right in the thick of all of that. And it just seems like the revenue is in a much better position this year as opposed to a year ago. Am I right on that?
Well, I always have to kid my predecessor. Now that I'm on the job, things are looking great. but the economy had a lot to do with that. And we have had 23 straight months of revenue growth. We hit over $13 billion for the first time in state history a couple months ago. And so we're moving right along. We got a little bit concerned late last year when the stock market took a nosedive and energy prices also took a nosedive, but we rebounded very nicely in all those categories, and the revenue is continuing to show strong results, and that's great for Oklahoma.
Well, great, $23 billion. So what percentage of that comes from the oil and gas industry?
Well, it's $13 billion for our gross receipts to Treasury. That's before we city rebates and off the top, and then we'll have a budget a little over $8 billion this year. It depends on how you categorize it.
Did I say 23? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 13 billion.
13 billion, but 23 straight months.
I just gave us 10 billion extra.
Well, that's right.
Okay, so 13 billion, and then so what percentage of that comes from the oil and gas industry?
Well,
how important is it?
It's a huge factor. On the core part, when you look at gross receipts to Treasury, you wouldn't say it's as significant as it is. But when you look at how many jobs are tied to it, sales tax revenue, it becomes a lot bigger bigger issue. So it kind of depends on the issue on direct versus indirect.
The indirect impact on the economy
is enormous.
Is maybe as large as the direct. What's the direct impact?
Well,
though,
it's
of the
about
receipts?
200 million. Depends on our best year. We had gross receipts, and those end up showing 100 million in January, where we have a 2-month lag. That was the lowest month we had since we had the gross production tax increase. And so we're moving somewhere between 100 and 200 million, closer to that $100 million mark on a monthly basis. Kind of depends on the productivity out there in the marketplace.
Is there any other segment of the Oklahoma economy that is as powerful, if you will, as the oil and gas segment?
No, we're still
insofar as the revenue.
We're still an oil and gas state.
Yeah.
We're diversifying. We need to do that as much as we can. We have a more service industry like every other state, but oil and gas is still a key part of our economy, and we still are very much aligned. And in some ways, with the gross production tax higher, we've become a little bit more reliant on it than we were just a few years ago.
Wouldn't it be better if we were less reliant on the oil and gas industry?
Well,
Wouldn't it stabilize the revenue?
It would. But the will was of the people was that everyone has to chip in and pay their fair share. And it used to be a 7% across the board. The incentive rate got down to 1% for very short-term horizontal drilling, then would pop back out to 7%. And so at this point, it's 5% for horizontal drilling for the certain time period, then it moves to 7%, which is the historical number that it's been at.
Is there still significant activity to try to raise that 5%?
I don't hear it near as much. Business needs stability, and they need to be able to count on what the government's going to do, and it's been a heavy topic for 3 or 4 straight years. There was continual things, whether it be not just the rate itself, but on deductions and other tax treatment of this issue, and so things are moving right along. I haven't heard near the drumbeat on looking at it, because again, business needs to know what kind of rates they're going to have to pay, so they can know and put capital expenditures out there.
Randy, as we look through more of a digital economy going forward, how does that affect the long-range prognostications on revenue? Are we set up to succeed in a greater and greater digital economy, or do we need to make some adjustments?
Well, I think that's another huge issue that's been out there, and that's the Marketplace Fairness Act. How do you treat our use tax? Is basically always just kind of on an honor system, and we found that most people wouldn't pay when they're shopping online. And so I think with some of the initiatives that have taken place, with the Amazon agreeing to pay their fair share and other groups, we're finally starting to see the use tax. So that's been one of the fastest growing revenue sources we've had that no one's really talked about. It's still not anywhere near the income and sales tax, but it's becoming a lot more relevant in the overall picture. And so the use tax and the actual collection on taxes that were actually owed is starting to come in a lot stronger.
Well, is sales tax still increasing, even though so many people are buying online, and which would put that tax into the use tax category? Isn't that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. We still break it out separately, but they are the same thing. It's the use tax is just a different way to collect it. It's still sales tax on online purchases. With that said, the use tax has grown significantly, clearly because people are going more online and more in this digital age. Sales tax growth has not increased as much, but it's still very robust. We're having a great year in sales tax alone as well.
Randy, I know you're the keeper of the Treasury for Oklahoma. What are your top priorities now?
Well, the top
recently
priority,
elected for you.
Well, thank you. The core mission of the job is to make sure we're safeguarding the investments of the state. The core corpus of the assets are short-term investments. I do sit on several other boards that are more long-term in nature, whether it be the 529s or TSET, Tobacco Settlement Trust. But the day in, day out is a cash management operation where we're investing all the money to make sure that we can pay the bills on time. But we have an obligation too to not only invest it very safely and protect the assets, we want to maximize income. And as interest rates get higher, we're doing a great job at that too.
And I assume diversification is a critical part of that. So how are we diversified with our savings?
You bet. We have very strict criteria that we have to have great, very solid investments. We have government agencies, U.S. Treasuries. We do have some Ginnie Maes, so we can pick up some yield. So we're always balancing protection first, but also we want to maximize income. And so I'm happy to report for the first time in many years, we're over $100 million of income receipts coming in, and that's basically because we're doing a little bit better job on cash management analysis, plus interest rates have gotten better. And so that's always the balancing act of making sure we're protecting the principal, but we're investing it as wisely as we can.
Are there other states out there that have a good model that we've kind of adopted through the years?
Yeah, we look at best practices. It used to be where we carried a lot bigger cash balance and with fewer investments, and then also as we've grown. I mean, cash flow really helps everything. And so as the economy's getting better and the receipts are getting better, along with higher interest rates, but we compare practices around the country, and most of them run a very similar cash management type program that we do.
You mentioned, just in passing, the 529 College Savings Plan program. Can you tell our viewers what that is? Just
Yes.
kind of give them a little overview of it.
Well, that is another high priority, a great program started 3 treasuries ago with Robert Butkin, and it's grown tremendously. It's nearing $1 billion on our core product. We're just a little bit under $900 million in core assets in that. We've already had distributions of over $500 million that's helped local economies across the state. We have 25,000 students participating. And so the good thing with the bigger size is we're going to be able to reduce our cost. We still are going to have the great investment choices for all people. And it's the only plan where Oklahomans can get an Oklahoma tax deduction.
Is it used by a lot of folks in Oklahoma?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, $500 million have already been distributed for colleges and for their students. We have 25,000 students participating. We want to grow more, and it's a great program, and we're going to be able to reduce costs when we hit certain other benchmarks along the way. And so we renegotiate in 2020. Great investment choices, great customer service. It's just going wonderful.
And so to set up one of those accounts, is it something you do by yourself? Do you need a CPA involved? What do you do?
Several ways. There's an advisor base where they'll go out and market also, and that's been a newer product that's a little bit north of $100 million. Again, almost $900 million is where you just go online and you can go to Oklahoma College Savings .com and it will just pull up. They're pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. You can call in as well, and we try to make it as turnkey as possible.
And when those dollars are ultimately used for a young person's education, I assume tuition would be an acceptable way to spend it. I assume
Absolutely.
Books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, it has to be a qualified expense. There's a whole booklet that's really fun to read that has all the fine print in there. But just
That's why I'm trying to get the Cliff Notes here.
But the Cliff Notes is you've hit them perfectly. The number one thing would be tuition. I will say a new advent that's happened has been for K through 12 for private schools, and that can only be used for tuition only in that scenario. Now for college, there's a bigger variety, and so you have tuition, books, and anything that would be a direct expense to go to college.
Randy McDaniel's our guest. He's the state treasurer. We'll be back with another segment with Randy right after this.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative, and this year, our competition teams rank number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers and our guest, Randy McDaniel.
Randy, what can you tell our viewers about what steps you take to make sure that nobody runs off with the state money?
Well,
what kind of safeguards do
I'm
you
glad
have in
to
place?
circle back on that. We have two key things that we do. In this modern age with technology, we have to make sure that we're at cutting edge, but we also have to correspond with all our agencies across the state. And so first and foremost on that is innovation and technology. And we've started that process 3 or 4 years ago. We strategically put money aside, and so we need to finish that mission. A lot of the programs back at the Capitol are on old COBOL and other things, and so we need to make sure that we have the right kind of resources to protect in the technology front to make sure that the bad guys aren't having any access to the money. Now, the other key part, of course, is what you'd think traditionally, and that is how is the money actually invested? And we have very strict criteria on that. Kind of depends on the pool of money. When we're looking at the core assets, they're going to be on the cash management front, which would be very secure and safe, very high rated securities. When we look a little bit longer term, we do have some growth strategies when we look at some different pools, whether it be retirement accounts or TSEP money or other areas. But two key parts of the equation are the investment strategy and technology.
Oklahoma has had a balanced budget requirement forever.
Yes.
Not really, but for a long time. Do most states have a balanced budget requirement as well?
Yes, 49 out of 50 do. Vermont's the only exception to that, and I think that's been key to keeping debts from growing uncontrollably and unsustainably. So I'm proud to report that Oklahoma does. There are exceptions to every balanced budget, but ours is about as good as any. There are some things that can have unfunded liabilities that grow over time that kind of circumvent that situation. But for the most part, ours is working. The big issue lately has been, is it adequate to really cover a major recession? And so while our procedures are right and the concepts are right, the question is, should it be a little bit larger to be able to offset any kind of downturn in the economy?
It seems like a year or two ago, the credit rating agencies downgraded our credit rating. Are we back heading in the direction where we might get that upgrade again?
Yes, we have a strong outlook, which I'm very thankful for. We managed to get out of the Great Recession, and we did have some unfunded liabilities with our retirement system that were a great threat to our bond rating. When we kind of got on top of that, then we started having some other issues of inadequate funding for infrastructure, too much reliance, and there are some things we can't hurt on, some reliance on the energy sector, but we're continuing to move in the right direction. And so I'm thankful to see that favorable outlook. I think with our revenues, not relying so much on short-term solutions, we're starting to see some positive feedback.
Ken Miller used to use a term to stay the course on pension reform.
Yes.
Yeah, and what your thoughts on that comment, on his opinion?
Well, yes, we made some very tough decisions, and I'm very thankful to report that people have confidence now that what they have been promised is going to be received, and are people hurting. We always have to have a solution for how we're going to fund things over the long run.
Yeah, our pension, balances don't look good until you compare them to some other states. I mean, there's some other states that have a tremendously worse problem than we do.
Yes.
That doesn't downplay our issues, but I mean, we're hardly the only ones with underfunded pension plans.
Well, in 2010, we were in the bottom 5. Illinois was always a lot worse off than we were, but we were closer to that category than not. And to see us continually move upward in the trend line and our comparisons to other states has been a very positive outlook. And so while we've continued to march forward in strength and stability, many other states haven't. And so we're moving towards the top, and we need to keep working to become a top 10 system.
I know you've been a proponent of financial literacy.
Yes.
Tell us what you're doing about that and why it's important.
Well, I think it ties into everything and I think the treasurer's uniquely situated to promote this issue. It's been a priority for other treasurers and people that came before me in Oklahoma and around the country, but I want to make that a top priority as we learn and grow, and I just see it across our state that people need more education on how to learn and how to invest and protect not only their family but for future generations. And so we're going to do a few key initiatives where I already started putting in our Oklahoma Economic Report a key section on financial literacy. I've been going around the state talking about it, and we're going to continue to have initiatives to make that a high priority of this office.
Has there been talk about putting it into the educational system and having it a requirement?
Yes, I was part of that. I co-authored the Financial Literacy Act. There's that balance of we don't want unfunded mandates to our schools, but we know it's so critical to have. And so I think we've hit a nice balance there where in many cases it's optional, it's not overly burdensome. But I do think it is something that we all need to step up and try to help where we can. And I know my office is going to be committed to that. What
do you see are the biggest challenges this year upcoming in this legislative session?
Well,
from your perspective.
There's always a challenge no matter any of the circumstance. This is the challenge you want to have. We had revenues, about $575 million of growth revenues. Those were less than the expectations initially of about $613 million, the initial estimate. And there are many things that have already been locked in. But with that extra growth revenue gives us a chance to invest in education and mental health and corrections. And so we need to put some aside for the future, but we also need to make some core investments. And so I think the challenge is always to try to balance that, where we don't just spend it all today, but we still need to take this opportunity to make those investments.
What do you think the fund balance will be, the rainy day fund?
Oh, it's
when this session ends, where do you want it to be? Where do you think it'll be?
Well, I would like it to be, I would like to see a deposit, in the $50 to $100 million range. I think that's a reasonable. We do have about $236 million of selected investments already, and then if you throw in $70 million for teacher pay raise of $1,200 apiece, you start eating up what's available to put back in the rainy day. But we've been making record deposits. I'd like to see somewhere in the $900 million range would be a nice place. But I know the goal is eventually over $2 billion. That's the governor's goal. And I think that I would sure like to see us get north of $1 billion.
Where are we on unclaimed property? I see ads about it from time to time, and I guess we have quite a bit of unclaimed property.
People don't realize what a core part of my job that is. That's out of our employees, about 40 to 45% of the employees work in unclaimed property, and we're out there to try to return the property that's rightfully to the owner, and they get lost through the generations. This could be cash, this could be mineral rights, this could be life insurance, stocks and bonds, retirement accounts. And so we are actively engaged. And I am proud of my predecessor, Ken Miller, for the great program he started.
Some good ads.
Well, not only great ads, but he implemented performance pay, which we became the first state to do that. And we're a role model around the country of how do we bring business practice into government. And this is one of the key examples of that working. And so we're returning that every day. We have over 1 million Oklahomans have unclaimed property, and we're out there trying to get it returned to them.
Randy McDaniel is our guest today on The Verdict. Randy, thanks so much for coming in.
Much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much for letting me be here.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
I really think people are so unaware of the number of kids waiting just in Oklahoma. And I think if more people knew that those children were out there waiting, I think that just by the way we live our lives and the people we talk to, that maybe we can help encourage adoption from Oklahoma.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We just had a very interesting show with State Treasurer Randy McDaniel.
Yes, it's good to bring Randy on for the folks to see and that know they can have confidence that their assets are being handled properly.
Revenue in a much better position this year than it was a year ago, and now spending it wisely, investing where appropriate are the causes out there. I have a couple of websites that I'll pass along to you so you can get some more information on our today's guest. You can reach Randy in his office at ok.gov/treasure. That's ok.gov/treasure. And we have a website. We'd love for you to log on and tell us about a guest that you'd like to see or a subject you'd like to see us discuss here on The Verdict. And that website address is theverdict.tv. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for joining us. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.